everyone. I'm I'm actually starting the show giggling. That's what you get when you have a guest from high school on. I've known my guest today for many, many years, and she's making me laugh my head off already. So you're in for a treat. We'll try to keep the private jokes to a minimum. And can't wait. Anyways, welcome everyone. It is time for another episode of Get to Know Her. We are live once again from Burlington, Ontario at the Glam Jewels studio. So excited to have you here today. Before we get started on everything, I did want to thank everyone for the tremendous amount of support. I've been getting text messages and shares and all kinds of things because this morning, Glam Jewels was featured on the Weather Network, and I was on there because they came to me to highlight me as a community change maker in this area, and I am so grateful. The episode was shot a couple of months ago, so it's all up now on the Weather Network. You can actually go to theweathernetwork.com, and the show is called Brighter Day if you want to go and check it out there. But what a great experience. They shot it a couple of months ago, as I said, and what a lovely bunch of people who came here to my studio and put together a beautiful video that I will treasure forever. It's been amazing, and I've been talking to people from all over Canada this morning already, which is awesome. So thanks everybody. This is just great. The other thing, the other thing I wanted to let you know, apparently it aired on TV this morning between 7 and 9. It's going to air again tonight, I believe, between 7 and 9. And then it's going to repeat for like 2 weeks, which is so kick-ass. It's like national. So yeah, very excited, as you can see. Okay, now my outfit today is brought to you by none other than Brenda Bedome. I chose to wear my icy blue top from Brenda with this little houndstooth jacket. And look how beautifully it goes with our 3 Little Wishes necklace, which is what we're talking about on the Weather Network. And I've got some lovely earrings on and a beautiful fundraising piece that many of you purchased last year in the lovely blues. Because soon everything's going to be blue. Blue skies, blue water, we'll be swimming again. It's going to warm up really soon. Bluebells are coming out. Today, my guest is so special. She's absolutely amazing. Oh, and don't forget, when you go to brendabedome.com to shop, use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 22% off of your order. I cannot forget to tell you that because that's a huge savings. And then go to glamjewels.com for your matching accessories. Now, Elizabeth. I can't wait for you to meet Elizabeth Plouffe. As an entrepreneur for the past 10 years, Elizabeth has explored building businesses while still an employee. Way to go, girl. She was fully independent with her own communications and event planning business. Today, she is the CEO and founder, or chief minion, as she likes to call herself, of Spero Careers Canada, which focuses on building resources for and with the autism community. Elizabeth's vision is to make it easier and faster to help more autistic Canadians receive the employment support they need from autism employment specialists. Over the past 25 years, she's been building on skills gained in industries such as food and retail services, healthcare office management, volunteer management, corporate communications, entrepreneurship, tech development, support services, and as an instructor for medical office management. Elizabeth's son was diagnosed as autistic 16 years ago and is now a successful college student working towards a career in welding and fabrication. Way to go, Thomas! She's had the pleasure of working with the autism community through the Autism Job Club, CASDA, Mentor Ability Ontario, and membership in organizations such as CASE and CERIC. Elizabeth believes that being weird is a positive thing. She loves Marvel movies, musicals, and singing, especially when it embarrasses her kids. She's an avid baker, reader, gardener, and collector of action figures. I have always adored how multifaceted Elizabeth is and how incredibly focused this woman is. I have known this Wonder Woman, as I said in the beginning, since high school, and I am delighted to have her here. Here she comes.
Go, Lizzie. It's breakfast. Focused is not a word people usually use to describe me. Just putting it out there.
Oh my God, you are so focused. Okay, first of all, there's little signs of focus that I see all around me. Okay. So number one is you are so organized. Like even talking to you about booking the segment and everything, it was in your calendar. You went through past episodes. You get yourself like all prepared and ready.
And then I forgot my notes at home. So, you know.
You know your stuff, girl.
ADD.
Yeah, but no, you really are. You're a professional in every way. You see things all the way through.
I appreciate that. It's from like as you know, I've been a podcast host for 5 years or more. So we always come to the table prepared in that capacity. And I always like to make sure guests are prepared because then the conversation is much easier and you can get to the juicy bits, you know, the funny bits, the important stuff a little faster. So
yes,
that's the plan.
I love it. Elizabeth,
yeah.
I can't believe I don't know this. Okay, first of all, I'm going to ask you the number one question. But second of all, I always find in these interviews, I actually kind of have to act like I don't really know you because there are things I know where, you know, the conversation could be like, I'm under the
inside joke thing.
Else knows. Yeah, but no, so yeah, really, like when I ask you things where you're like, hey, you already know that.
I'm pretty open booky. Like my friend Holly is an excellent family mediation coach, and anyway, she invited me to do the DISC assessment.
Okay.
Don't ask me what that means. And then she gave me a call and she's like, so we need to talk. I was like, uh-oh, I'm already in trouble. Why does like so many conversations in my life start with we need to talk? And she said, I actually had to take your results to a team. I think she can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but so with the DISC, one of the things they measure is how you show up in 4 different situations. And she said, we've never seen results like yours because you show up exactly the same in every single situation. So whether I'm with family, friends, work, or social, I'm exactly who I am, regardless. I mean, I do try to modify the amount of F-bombs I use because sometimes not appropriate, but I just find anything else exhausting. Like, why would I want to pretend to be something I'm not or try and maintain a facade to make somebody else comfortable or whatever? So I don't have that ability. I don't have that skill set, and I don't choose to nurture getting that skill set because I would much rather people always know when they talk to me, they're going to get the same person every time.
I love that. So you're not a born people pleaser.
No, like oddly, no. Like, no, I have always been. So you're going to say, your first question is, what were you like as a kid? Or what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did you want to be when you grew up? And then we're going back to this because I find that fascinating because I was a born people pleaser.
Yeah, no, I've always been more about, do I have to? So growing up, I started out wanting to be a vet. And then about 10 or 11, discovered I was allergic to cats and everything else covered in fur or feathers. So that was kind of out. Then I wanted to be an obstetrician. But grade 11, I got mono and I was out of school for 4 months and I was taking chemistry and biology and just everything. And I just never got the motivation back. And you're going to bring up adversities later. And that kind of got in the way because there was a lot of, I know people have a very positive experience in high school. I had a lot of drama going on that made high school something I prefer to not go back to very often. Then what did I want to be? Then I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my parents had split and all of a sudden I'm telling my dad, I'm like, I don't think I want to go to college. And he's like, and my mom was like, and then out of the blue, I get this phone call from Seneca College, King City. And one of your previous guests I was watching yesterday has a connection to, I don't know if it was Eva or Lynn or somebody's connected to King City. So I end up taking, they're like, you've been accepted into the travel and tourism program. And I'm like, well, that's freaking great, except I didn't apply.
going to say, how'd they get this information?
Like, this is pre-internet, right? Like, this is 1990. Like, don't know. So my mom's like, yay, you can go and do travel and tourism and become a cruise director. And then I get free cruises.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be like the Julie. What was her name on the Love Boat? Julie.
Oh,
Julie. And then Vicky was the activities, the younger cousin.
No, Julie was the activities director. Vicky replaced her. Like, I think that was Stubing's daughter, right?
Yeah.
80s segue. So I did travel and tourism for 2 years, and my dad died in the middle of my first year. And so things went a little screwy. I worked in travel and tourism for 3 months at the airport. It was not my cup of tea. Lots of stories to tell from that. My personal favorite was when a guy asked if he could pay for his ticket to Vancouver when he got there, and would we please trust him for the amount? And I was like, so that's going to be a no. But I appreciate your creativity. Then I left that and went into medical office administration, and we're both Sheridan grads. So took that 2-year full-time program. Met Christy. Well, actually, no, Christy Aubin and I were at Eastview together. I think Lynn Pike went to Eastview.
Okay.
And met up again at Sheridan, and we did that course. So did that role for 10 years. And then
you and Christy friends in high school? Did you guys know each other?
She was a grade below me, so like we kind of knew of each other.
Yeah. Now, I want to point out, speaking of friends, not to interrupt the train of thought, Jillian Sheldon, our good friend, just commented, I can't get on this live link, but Jillian, we are live. She is watching live, so
I don't know.
I'm not sure. So I just want to reassure her that she is indeed watching this live. This is not a replay at the moment.
You're probably going to wish you had that option by the end. But anyway.
Okay. So
I did MOA. Yeah. Did that for 10 years. I worked at St. Joe's, worked in respirology, cardiology, dermatology, family practice. So a lot of specialty things. And then you hit a glass ceiling in that role pretty quickly. So I was kind of done. And then went into volunteer management with Girl Guides of Canada for 4 years.
Wow.
Which was great. Yeah, that was good. I was like 150 guiders and 750 girls, but 100 different, 80 units that I was managing.
Incredible. Were you a Girl Guide growing up? Did you do Brownies and Girl Guides?
Oh, that's another story. So, so I did, which is why I loved my time. Well, I did. No, we moved to the U. You're going to ask about my childhood, so we're skipping ahead a little bit, but we'll come back to the brownie question because I got asked to leave Girl Guides. So it was kind of recommended that I didn't return.
Something we want to definitely
unpack a little. Yeah. Super fun. So decided to go back to school in 2011 full time and got my postgraduate in corporate communications, which was great. And then my first job, I won't name the company, ended up working for what we later diagnosed as a high-functioning sociopathic narcissist that we nicknamed the Kraken. And it was through that experience that I decided to become an entrepreneur. Because like you mentioned before, you've never been a people pleaser. And I have not. And the challenge was that I just went, I don't want to continue working for these individuals who think for whatever reason, because of their position, they have authority over me. And like nothing about them, made them better than me. They just happened to get into a different role. So
wow. I want to ask you about this.
Uh-oh.
So there's a couple of things I want to ask you about. I love this. And I want to know, do you think you were born that way, or was it something that was ingrained into you from your parents that you don't have to please everything?
Oh, no, my mom was a massive people pleaser.
Because that's how we were raised.
Yeah.
Little girls, like be nice, be polite, all these types of things. So a lot of women have fallen into this role of people.
I did not.
And now, that's so great, because now part of the offshoot of the pandemic is there is a big FU kind of movement amongst people pleasers. I do believe,
like a little bit of a rebellion, maybe. I don't know. Like my mom.
Tell me. How
will
did,
tell you. So we'll jump into that childhood thing. So my parents actually came over from England in 1962. They're Geordies. For those of you that don't know, they're from the north of England, Newcastle on Tyne.
oh boy. Yeah.
I know. It's going to give me a moment.
Yeah.
So they were in Canada for many, many years. So I'm first generation Canadian. My brother was born in Toronto. I was born in Montreal, which ties to my jewels, which I will tell you later because it's an awesome story. My dad was a tea taster for Salada. He had worked for Rington's Tea in the UK, came over to Salada, so he was the person, putting your blend together. And my mom was heavily involved in church and teaching nursery school and all those kinds of great things because, somebody needed to be home with us weirdos. Then we moved to the US for 2 years and my dad ended up working for Kellogg's. So we got a lot of cornflakes and good stuff. And if you've ever been to Battle Creek, Michigan, that smell you smell in the air is roasting cornflakes. It gets on your nerves after a while, I have to tell you. But even you asked people pleaser. So I remember being like 8 years old and like I have great American friends, so I don't mean this as a whatever, but the area that we were in, they were an odd bunch of folks. And I remember standing in the street going, I don't think I like it here. And I was in grade 2. And of course, in the US, the Pledge of Allegiance and the anthem and whatever is very important. And I would not stand up. And the teacher's like, you have to stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance and you have to sing the anthem. And I said, I'm Canadian and we're not staying here. So no, I don't. And I would not get up. And they were like, we're going to call your parents. And I'm like, they're going to say the same thing, that we're Canadian, like we're here on a work visa. So thanks.
Your parents would support you.
I'm not so sure about that. Okay. I seem to recall having to stand, but I didn't have to say anything.
Okay.
So that was fine. That was my little rebellion, that you can make me stand up because my mommy says I have to, but I ain't saying squat for you. I was 7.
Yeah.
So then we moved back to Oakville in 79. And our family always had a connection to church. My mom sang in choir for years. My dad sang in choir for years. We had a very strong church community. Not religious, though. Like, I'm not religious at all. I do believe there's a God. How you talk to him or her or them is all up to you. But growing up, that was a lot of our friends were through church activities. We used to go camping and go to friends' cottages and things like that. So active. My parents were golfers and tennis players and bowlers, and like there was always something kind of happening. My brother was into hockey. He was into Cubs. So we're getting to, here's the Girl Scouts. So I joined Brownies in the States. I know. So I've always had a little problem with people telling me what to do, and Girl Guides, it's not the organization you want to join if you don't like being told what to do.
Okay.
So I was good as a brownie, but then we got into Girl Guides, and the end of my second year, it was suggested I didn't return because I seemed to be having problems following the guidelines. Yeah. I had to tie. Were you a Girl Guide?
No, I didn't do Brownies or Girl Guides.
Okay,
no.
You brought up Woodside School, right? So that's actually where we met for Girl Guides. And okay. Yeah, so they had you tying a bedroll to go to camp, and there's like very specific knots, and I don't know, maybe I have PTSD from this experience, but I've never been able to tie knots, and I got it together, right? Like it was, what's gonna, and they're like, that's not correct, you have to do it again. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And they were like, no, that's not the right. I'm like, it's together, we're good. And that's when they had a chat with my parents. They're like, ironically, I ended up being a Girl Guide leader for 5 years.
Wow. So how old were you when they released you of your duties for Girl Guides?
12.
12. Okay. So do you remember what that day felt like? Can you remember?
Did not care.
Humiliated? Didn't care.
No. I was like, all right, that didn't work out. See you later.
Moving on.
No, we're talking about that earlier. I'm not somebody who regrets a lot. Like I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to bend myself into a pretzel to make somebody else comfortable. If
Mhm.
I'm not your person, that's totally cool. I am not everybody's person. I can be very high energy. I can be very direct. I'm extremely honest. I went shopping with a friend for her bridesmaids dresses, and she picked this particular bridesmaid's dress, and it was a beautiful dress, right? Like nothing wrong with the dress.
Mhm.
But it definitely was a bridesmaid's dress. And everybody was telling her how you could wear this again, and yada yada yada. And in my head, I'm like, "Are you cray cray?" Like,
Yeah. Never wearing that again.
never wearing that again. It was, and it worked for her day. It made her happy. It was a beautiful bridesmaid's dress. No problem with that. So I just kept quiet because I could not lie to her and support what these other people were saying.
Mm.
And so she asked me at the end, she's like, "You've been awfully quiet." And I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And she said, "So what do you think of the dress?" I said, "We will be beautiful on the day." And like, "I'm in, I'll wear it." I said, "But don't kid yourself that it's anything other than it's going to be a bridesmaid's dress."
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I just feel it's easier. I would rather be truthful with individuals. Like people say they always know where they stand with me. They said the same thing about my mother. You don't have to ask us, what are you truly thinking that? And it'd be like, yes, I don't say what I don't mean ever.
Right. Okay. So because you're a youngster, you were behind me in high school.
51.
Yeah. You're a year behind.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember like who you hung out with or what was going on. But what I am interested in knowing is because you had this and still have this constitution about you where it's just like, hey, like I'm just an honest person and this is the way it is. Were you
unpopular? Yes.
Okay, I was going to ask you, were you more to yourself, or were you more a leader of your pack of friends because
No, I went to Eastview, and I made some amazing friends at Eastview. And I'm still friends with some of them, Tracy Blasco and whatever. What I've managed to do is make one good friend from each educational aspect of my life, right? So I still keep in touch with Caroline Jones, who I met in Montreal in nursery school.
Wow.
We found each other again through Facebook. I still obviously hang out and do stuff with Tracy Blasco, who I met at Eastview. Stephanie Wright, I met her when I moved to Oakville in 1979. We went to Eastview together. We just volunteered at the World Synchro event. We've been friends for 42 years now, 41 years. Tammy Beatty was my main friend in high school. Paula Boyd and Christine Vaughn and whatever. But yeah, and one friend in college. Sheridan, Christy was the main one I connected with. When I went to Seneca, it was my friend Karen. Tragically, she was killed in September in a car accident. And Sheridan the second time, not as much or the third time, because I was doing that with my husband and kids. Like I was at a different phase in my life.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to connecting with people, like it's not a lot, but it's solid.
Yeah.
In high school, just 0 F's given about my shoes or my skirt or whatever creature I had on my, you had to have like an alligator or a whatever. Like I just exhausting. Like I don't understand why you people think that's important, but you do you. I'm just gonna go and hang out with my friends at QE.
Yeah, amazing. It's just interesting because we're talking about entrepreneurship and it is an amazing life we live in. Like we are leaders, but we're also loners. So it's kind of cool to hear like, how was it when you were younger, or does it even relate?
I've always done my own. So I wouldn't say loner. I'm just comfortable being alone, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I love going out with people. I love going out with my friends, the whole 9 yards, but I'm also, believe it or not, an introvert. So I don't get energy from hanging around with big groups of people. I find that exhausting, especially if other folks aren't quite as honest or forward facing, right? Because I don't know how to navigate that. And I have no desire to pick up that skill.
Yeah.
And small talk is exhausting. It's like, if the other person doesn't read or doesn't enjoy, more than two things, like, what have I don't have anything to talk to you about. You want to talk about Funko Pops? We can do, like, I can do Marvel, I can do baking, I can do farming, I can do, like, give me a whole whack of stuff. But if you like soap operas, like, I got
For sure. Just as a side note, I'm so obsessed with Doctor Strange now. Like, I've been doing these, like, on the weekends. I've just been doing these little paintings just for relaxation.
Oh, really?
Portal paintings. Painting portals.
We need to get rings. Oh, we should get rings. So that's my friend Holly gave me the best compliment, because when Endgame came out, that was sort of the culmination of a whole series of movies, right? And she said, we were out one day and she's like, so my kids were asking me how many movies did they need to watch before they watched Endgame? And I said, well, hang on, have you never watched any other Marvel before? She's like, no. I'm like, so this is not the movie to start with. There's like 30 movies before this, so that would make sense.
Oh God.
She said, I told them I had a Marvel expert and that I would ask them. I'm like, I'll take that crown. Solid.
Yeah, that's a good one. That needs to go right beside Chief Minion. Chief Minion and Marvel expert. Okay.
People are going to think I'm a kid's entertainer or something.
Yeah. All right. So where do we go next? Like, your company is so kick-ass. I'm so friggin' proud of you. Like,
Thank you. That's kind.
You're changing the world with this business you've created, girl.
We're trying. I had an events and communications business, and my goal with that business was to actually help other entrepreneurs improve their communications so they could get found, make more business, the whole 9 yards. What I failed to realize at the time is that other entrepreneurs at the same level as I am don't have the money or time to pay somebody to do the job for them. So it just became a never-ending headbutt trying to get business and find people who could afford to pay me to do what I wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. And when my son was 18, we were trying to find him a job, right? So he had worked a little bit during high school, but between, a variety of things, it was more important that he focus on education versus employment. So in summer, he was mowing lawns, and trust me, we kept him going. His co-op experiences weren't very positive. So I went looking for resources to support an autistic individual getting a job. Sure enough, there was diddly and squat. So, and at the time, right, recognizing the internet and what have you, I went to the library because that's my go-to. And I got told to connect with the Autism Job Club, which was at the time run by Marilyn Ellis. And in an ironic twist, it was running out of Robert Bateman High School the last year my son was there. We didn't know anything about it.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, all right, that's bullshit. So I'm talking to Marilyn. I'm like, look, this is my skill set. This is what I can help you with. How can I volunteer with you to make this happen? So we went on to put on some really incredible autism and employment conferences and some other smaller events and start getting it out there. And Spero Careers Canada just recently took over. Actually, that's a lie. Well, we sort of did, but we didn't. I also have a not-for-profit called Socially ASD. And that's focused on providing social opportunities for adults who are 18 plus on the spectrum, but are independent in their activities of daily living. So they can usually manage to get to and from wherever we are on their own, or it's not a group for individuals who require a support worker or a parent to be there, right? Oh. It's for those aqua tacos like my son who are extremely social, but kind of forget to reach out to their friends and, all good love. So we've just recently taken over the Autism Job Club. So we'll now be running that in addition to all our other stuff.
Wow.
Because I don't sleep. So,
congratulations. So this is a very recent acquisition.
Yeah, about January of this year. We just sort of finalized it, and we have a so this is going to get okay. So this is where things get a little squirrely, people. I have ADD and a big mouth and a lot of ideas. So thanks to Marilyn, I got to meet Michael Mccreery. If you want to see somebody who is freaking hysterical and, happens to be autistic, but you gain a little insight into the autistic mind, Michael Mccreery is the Aspie comic. And I happened to meet Michael because he got booked as he was the comedy entertainment for one of our autism and employment events. Mm-hmm. And he's just freaking hysterical. So I happened to join CASDA a number of years ago. CASDA stands for the Canadian Autism Spectrum Disorders Alliance. And a friend of mine, Jan van der Hoop, invited me to go to one of their conferences. This ties in, I promise. Come along for the ride for a little bit. I promise it all comes together. And so with working with the Autism Job Club, Marilyn had begun trying to create autism-specific tools to support job seekers, right? Because right now, from an online perspective, there's really not a lot that's out there specifically to support an autistic job seeker. And there are some neurological differences in approaching the job process and building resumes and all that kind of stuff that you need to, for lack of better language, accommodate. And I'm thinking, okay, so we can walk around, right, with the equivalent of a laptop in our back pocket, but we can't design a personality assessment tool that takes into account some of the things that the autism community needs to account for. And we can't do that. Like, it just was weird.
Right.
So I started putting together the idea for what Spero does now, which is our online platform. And initially it was designed to help the autistic job seeker, because that's where I thought the problem was, that they needed more support accessing the services. Turns out that's not the case. Turns out it's the autism employment specialists not having the appropriate software to adequately support the autistic job seeker. So it's going to be a multi-functional platform. Paulette Goddard is one of my business partners. She's an autism employment specialist with about 15 years experience. So I met her through Autism Job Club. Jason Little came on board a year and a half ago. He's our CTO. So I'm chief minion because I'm not a big fan of titles, and I would never presume to be better than anybody else on the team. Like I think the title of president is a little pretentious.
And also, this is a great point, because as an entrepreneur, you're doing all
it was just me for a long time, which looked really stupid for me to say I'm the president. And they're like, "Who's your team?" And I'm like, "This is Incredible and Wonder Woman."
but you're hiring people with expertise in areas where you're an expert. Yeah, perfect.
No, Paulette's a business partner, right? So it's not that kind of hiring. And I would never, we're all on an even keel because we all bring different skill sets to the table. So I'm Chief Minion, she's Chief Awesome, and Jason is Chief Swissy because he's a Swiss Army knife and he can do all kinds of stuff.
I love it. And Paulette, you had a podcast going with her, which people can listen to on your website.
Yeah, there's a variety of streams there. If you go to Across the Desk, Paulette and I do one. I do one myself. I've done interviews through Spark the Change, which was an event Jason and I. Okay, true story. Segue again, sorry. Yeah. So Jason and I met back in 2014. I got recommended to him through my events and communications business. Mm-hmm. And he hired me because during the interview, I said the F word. He's like, I knew we would get along because you're not averse to cussing. And I'm like, I am down with the bad language. Yeah. So anyway,
sweet. I did want to say one thing. The podcast we do with Paulette called The Future Looks Good.
Yep.
Such a great name.
Oh, thank you.
And very, it's wonderful. I mean, you talk about every episode is specifically about autism, and you even start with you have like a part 1 and part 2 to what is autism, which I think is brilliant. So, if anybody's listening, you can go on and listen to like a couple of hours of the
of me yakking away at you.
So important because we, for people who have no exposure to it, don't understand it, I think it's really important that they get a deep dive into it and learn about the spectrum,
Let's clarify though. So let's clarify. So sorry, because that can be a sensitive topic for the autism community. So I am not autistic. And trust me, I've taken multiple because I was called autistic adjacent, which would be appropriate.
Mhm.
My son is diagnosed at
Okay.
7 by a specialist with Asperger's syndrome, which that's a whole nother set of controversy.
Mhm.
So we speak from a non-lived experience perspective. We speak from a parental perspective, and we speak from an autism specialist perspective. This in no way encapsulates the lived experience individuals, right? So my son or what have you, it's from our perspective.
Mhm.
I interviewed, if you want to have a better understanding of the autism community, I've done several interviews through CASDA with the Canadian Journal of Autism and Equity. And that's lived experience individuals. So autistic self-advocates and what have you, that's where the juicy bits are.
Okay.
So we give the technical, but I
Mhm.
would never claim to understand on any level what it's like to live as an autistic individual. So I just
Yeah.
want to clarify. But yeah, there's a lot of different ones.
Are those interviews also on your website, Elizabeth, or is that they have to go to CASDA for that?
No. So if you go to Across the Desk, if you type in Across the Desk,
Mhm.
I've got multiple series. So Across the Desk encapsulates all of them. Some of them are under The Future Looks Good. Some of them are under CASDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So sorry, I do a lot.
Yeah,
So
you do. It's fantastic though, but it's good for people to understand how to navigate and find this information so that
agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So 6 years ago, started getting
Mhm.
this idea. 5 years ago, started brainstorming it out. 4 years, well, okay, damn you, COVID.
Yeah.
Like I do the math in my head. So 6, 5, that's right. About 5 years ago, I went to my first CASTA conference, and I was in the process then of having to name my company, and I could not figure out what to call it. It's driving me crazy. And went to this conference, and there was an individual there who is an autistic self-advocate. She was making me crazy, right? Wasn't following the rules. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on that was just making me nuts. And I work with the autism community. You think I would be, but no. So on the very last day, this individual got up, and it was an opportunity for the lived experience panel to share a personal story. She got up and she said, all we want is hope. Hope that people will understand us. Hope that people will support us. Hope that we can get jobs. Hope that we can have a family. Hope that people will love us. Hope that we can live a long, productive life, and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And I turned to my colleague and I was like, shit. And he's like, what? And I'm like, now I have to like her. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, that was amazing. Like to bring that level of insight and vulnerability and be willing to share that, I was blown away. So Spero is actually Latin for hope.
Okay. That was going to be my next question right here.
Yeah. So that's why. So this individual inspired me to name my company Spero Careers Canada, because she did that piece. And wow. I couldn't go up to her then, just like she ended up having to leave and I didn't catch her. But the next year I went up to her and I said, I just wanted to let you know, because of you, this is what I'm doing now. This is the name of my company because of that piece that you shared. And thank you for that insight. And that level of vulnerability that you were willing to share with a bunch of strangers. Mm-hmm. And so Spero Careers Canada has steadily grown in that. We've never wavered from our mission, right? Which is to remove as many barriers to employment as possible, whichever side of the desk that's on. Then I had to name the platform that we're building. That was a bit of a head scratcher. And I might get a little, because
yeah.
So my mom.
Your mom.
My mom.
Most amazing. Oh, God.
Just a little firecracker, right?
Your bond with her, like, God, you guys, while Elizabeth's having a moment.
I'm having a moment. I'll be better. It's fine. But we had a lot, like you talk about growing up, right? So mom and I butted heads a lot. Partly because I was a little like her, partly because I was a lot like my father, and my parents had split. My dad remarried. 4 months later, he died. My mom ended up, you're talking about adversities is one of the questions. And like, I don't know if you remember, but in 1986, how old are you? Is that grade 11?
Yeah,
Like
you would have been 15 or 16. Yeah.
16,
Yeah, you would have been 16. I was 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So our house burned down Christmas Day in 86. And my dad was going through chemotherapy at the time. And my mom wasn't doing well mentally. She had a little bit of depression and whatever going on. She's still fully functional. Like my mom, you will never hear anybody describe her other than a force of nature and a firecracker and a whatever, because that's just put your big girl pants on, get it done, right? That's how we were raised. Don't cry, don't fuss, get on the bus.
Yeah.
And so then when my dad died, she had a bit of a nosedive and ended up with a bit of a drinking problem. And my brother had moved out to BC by then. So I was the main person dealing with that. And then she went into rehab and she was absolutely phenomenal. Rocked that, had sobriety for 26 years.
How long after did she go into rehab?
After what?
After the house burned down and your dad.
So that was, my life was pretty much a shit show from like 14 to 24. So probably about 8 years after the house burnt down, she went into rehab.
Okay.
And did it amazing. I can't give her enough props for that. And I met my husband, soon to be husband at the time, and they got along like a house on fire. So that was awesome. Then a whole bunch of stuff happened with my dad's estate, and that took 10 years and lawsuits and all kinds of shitola to get that sorted out. And so when you talk about people pleasing and not taking whatever, I think your question was, is that how you built, or is something made you that way? And the answer is yes. So I think I've always had that propensity for not being a people pleaser and not saying yes just because that's the right thing to do. And I've also had a lot of situations where saying no was the only answer.
Right.
And, yeah. Like you can either take shit lying down or you can get up and do something about it. And I'm more of a get up and do something about it person. So that I think is intrinsic, but extrinsically, there's just been a lot of situations that have provided opportunity for me to exercise those muscles. So they're quite big, contrary to my appearance. So yeah, so like lots of crap went on, and that's why like that was all happening during high school. So people are like, high school was great. I'm like, high school was a shit show. Like no desire.
Oh my God.
No desire. Do you remember Mr. Borland? We'll have an insight on
I never had him, but he was he a science teacher?
Biology, yeah.
Yeah. And did he teach? He didn't do gym as well, did he? No.
No. Can you?
No. Okay. I was going to say, yes.
Hells no. But we had to pick a project for grade 11 biology. And I said, I put a proposal in. I was like, I'd like to use my dad. And he said, what do you mean? And nobody knew at that time that my dad had cancer, and we were going through all of that. And I said, well, my dad's got cancer. He's going through chemotherapy. I should probably learn something about that. So can I make that my project? And he was the poor man. Like upon reflection, that was probably not the best way to, by the way, this is what's going on in my life. So my dad was my grade 11 biology project. So
and was Mr. Borland supportive of that?
Yeah.
Great. I love it. Yeah. And what what a great way, productive way to work through the grief.
Yeah.
You felt like you were.
It was scary.
Yeah, but getting a better understanding and being.
I'm all about knowledge. Yeah, like if I have a gap somewhere, I need to fill that because not knowing.
It totally speaks to what you just said. I'm not going to lay down while this is happening. I want to get up and do something about it. So
I have to be in the know. I don't have to be in control. I don't have to be in charge, but I do have to be in the know. So not knowing creates anxiety in me and creates that chaos feeling that I can't function.
Yeah.
Sadness does the same thing. I don't live in sadness very long because that is debilitating. Whereas anger or whatever else, I can work with that. I can make stuff happen if I'm angry, but if I'm sad, not so much. So I'll dip into that when I need to, when it's appropriate. So like with my mom, she taught me, this is what you're doing to me. It's a Miss American woman.
Oh, your mom.
She taught me to be funny, and she taught me to be community oriented. She taught me to be giving. She taught me so much inadvertently and, positively and negatively, because I saw what happened when she kept her mouth shut. That was the other thing. I was never, ever going to let anybody, because I kept my mouth shut. That's never going to be me.
Respond to you standing up for yourself, being,
not know what to do with me.
Yeah. Did you get nervous?
Because I'm a bit fearless in that, of course, it's going to work out. Like, it wouldn't occur to me not to try something, or not to, like, going back to school at 41. She's like, I would never do that. I'm like, so then you don't do that. And that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing this job anymore. And in order to move on into something else, I need to get education. I have no doubt I'm going to graduate and be fine. So if it's a year, like, who gives a shit? Like, it's a year. And my dad died at 50, and that changes your perspective on, like, loss of a parent always changes your perspective on life. And he died when I was 20. So I had a much different view of the world than most of my peers.
For sure. That's a very young age to,
experience that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use it in a positive way, right? Like, it's very much about, from my mom, it's about, how can I help lift you up? As long as you're willing to help yourself at the same time, I will work alongside you. You pull the victim card and want me to do all the work for you and whatever, and I'll be like, peace out. You come back to me when you've got some balls, and we're good to go. Or like, whatever you need to, whatever you need to work through to be able to work on whatever you want to work on, I'll be by your side and help you 100%. But if you want me to do all the lifting for you, that's not where I shine.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's. And then my mom, sorry, it all ties together, people. I promise you. I know it sounds like a scattered squirrel situation, but seriously.
No, it doesn't at all. And it always, it always sounds like, when I was on your podcast, I always felt like, what did I just say? But
it all makes sense in the end, right? You listen to it after and you're like, that came together.
Yeah.
So anyway, my mom had health issues off and on for years, right? And we called her our little VW, because, like, the engine kept going, but everything else was kind of falling to crap. Yeah. And she just ended up with an unrecoverable health situation, and she was in hospital for 3 months. And unfortunately, in January of 2019, she passed away. And the week before, I had been told I got a grant to help me build my company. So actually, the earrings that I'm wearing today, I went down to the gift shop because my mom had her eye on them, and I bought them for her. And I went into her room and I said, Mommy, I said, guess what? I said, they're gonna help me. And she was like, you get them, girl. You show them what you can do. Right. I think she was she wanted to be that bold. And so once she got used to me being a little bit of a jump off the cliffer kind of person, she would come along a little bit.
And also encourage you, go do that. I want to see what happens.
Yeah. You go fall on your ass.
Yeah, you go jump off that building.
Pick you up when you're done. So unfortunately, she had a procedure that was supposed to help, and crap happened, and she died. So I had to name my platform something. And I was like, can I just call it Fred? Like, it's a really long, it's a hard process to name something that began as your idea, that you can see the concept of, that you have proven the concept, like all of those things. If anybody's a creative out there and you've gone through this process, you know where I'm at, right? Like, coming up, like the name Glam Jewels, like, what did you have to go through to make that name? What made sense? What you could live with? And my mom's name was Mary. You can't really name an online platform Mary. It does not. But my kids called her Nana. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to call it Nana. And they're like, what? I'm like, just roll with me. Like, I haven't taken you down there. So it's called Nana Works. And it worked out well because Nana actually stands for Neurodiverse Accessible Network that actually works.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's kind of named after my mamacito and
Yeah.
works.
Oh, that's so great. I love it. Yeah. And you know, the sense of humor stuff from your mom, like I still remember 3 months when you were posting on Facebook in the hospital with you and your
Yeah.
mom. And you guys were like, I couldn't wait to see what you're going to do next. It was like party time in the hospital, and the two
We
of
had,
you.
honestly, I would not take a day back. You know, I was there for 3 solid months. I think I missed 2 days.
Mhm.
And there was one day, and I would talk to her on the phone, and I would go in, and I was sleeping overnight, like in true Girl Guide fashion. I actually took in an inflatable bedroll and had a whole system set up and the whole whatever. And like, oh yeah. So she calls me up, and we were, chit-chatting and whatever. And so she said, so the nurses came in today. I said, good. And she said, so my mom was like a bit sleepy, right? Because they were taking a blood a lot. So she just kind of learned to doze through it or whatever. And 2 nurses, and one of them puts a hand on her and says, yeah, she's warm. And my mom thought they were checking to see if she was dead.
Oh my God.
I was killing myself. And I was like, Mommy, I can assure you that if they thought you were dead, they would have been a little louder. I said, your veins vasoconstrict when you're cold, which makes it hard for them to get the blood work. They were checking to see why they could have been having problems getting the needle in.
Yeah.
Because your veins might have been a bit rolly or collapsing on them or whatever. I'm like, they were just checking to see if your body temperature was good. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that's better. Because I swear I thought they were checking to see if I was dead. Oh my God.
Okay, I have to share a story with you. I can't even. So when my Oma, she had lung cancer, and when she was in the hospital, I remember she was pretty doped up, and one of the nurses said, we need a cold cloth. And she thought the nurse said, we need a coffin.
Oh my God.
And yet I'm not. I'm like, okay, Oma, she said cold cloth, and they don't just bring a coffin into the room when you die. Like, come on.
I love your Oma. That's like, there were so many little.
So hilarious.
Like
did you write stuff down? Like,
I recorded some stuff. I wrote some stuff down. Some of it's ingrained in my corny.
And a lot of it is on your Facebook memories now because you shared those stories with us.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, it's not that I'm like, yes, I'm an open book, but like I mentioned, my parents were from England, right? So we only have one family member in Canada. The rest of our family still lives in England. And my mom was second eldest of 5, and my dad was second eldest of 4. So I've had the phone calls where we had no warning. I got that phone call when my Uncle Joe died. I got that phone call when my grandfather died. I got that phone call when my Uncle Richard died. No warning, no understanding about how the situation had, like, we knew my Uncle Joe was sick with mesothelioma, so we knew eventually, but like when you don't get those updates, and you, like with my Uncle Richard, we had no idea how sick he was, and he wouldn't tell anybody. And with my grandfather, I mean, he was 80. He died after my dad died. He was 82, 83. So, but again, no warning. You know, my uncle went over and found him on the kitchen floor. So what you take out of that experience is that I didn't want her family to ever be out of the loop. I didn't want her friends to ever not have the information. And that was the main reason for sharing the Mumsy updates, was just to make sure that nobody ever got that phone call with no warning at all. I mean, it still ended up happening that way because it did, but
that was so smart. Do you remember? I don't know if I remember, like when I was like in the 70s, still when people weren't like phoning each other all the time, like overseas, you'd see the black envelope come in the mail. Did you?
Oh, we didn't get those. Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, who
died?
Yeah, who died? Yeah.
That's why people don't call me like before 8 a.m. because I was like, who's dead?
No.
And that's so, like, a lot of you talk, adversity and the adventures and the whatever, and a lot of that has influenced how our organization runs. The community aspect, as far as between our team and community collaboration. And I've just put in a proposal to CASDA and Spectrum Works that we do a bi-monthly online conference, but it's a social conference. So for autistic individuals, we would have like one speaker, and then the rest of it would be the opportunity for autistic individuals to self-organize into topics and do little meetups within this conference day, like a 3-hour block or whatever. So we're just in the process of creating that. There's not enough support for adults 18 plus.
No. And I wanted to ask you, because I was fascinated by this. On your website, you talk about autism and advanced manufacturing.
Yep.
What's that all about?
So my husband is a millwright and electrician, right? So he's been in trade since 36, 35 is when he began his first, entrepreneurship, apprenticeship.
Not 1936. He's not.
What did I say?
Since 36, 35, but I said not.
Oh, years old. Like he was 36 when he went into Monica. So you're a turd. So
sorry.
Yeah. So no, it's all good. So we ended up. So my son is extremely creative and artistic and whatever, and he did a full year at Sheridan College with visual and creative arts. But I noticed it was extremely stressful for him to create art on demand. While in high school, he got exposed to welding, and I have the pieces displayed in my house. And I remember Michael saying how good they were, and his teachers commenting that he had talent in that. I said, okay, if we can get him an apprenticeship and trained as a welder, nobody would ever, you can't take that away from them, right? So a couple of years ago, Haltech came to me and said, are you doing anything with autism and advanced manufacturing? I said, no, tell me more. So I designed a project with Haltech. It didn't get funded, but it gave me an idea. And I had begun working with the Work-Based Learning Consortium, who focus on advanced manufacturing training. And I said to them, have you ever worked with autism and advanced manufacturing? One of the reasons we're looking at this program, and I'll get back to the details in a second, is that there's about a 75% under or unemployment rate across the autism community, variety of levels of employability and what have you. But there's also a lot of misconceptions that all folks who are autistic want to be in IT and want to be in game development. And there's all of these myths and misconceptions about the risks associated with having an autistic employee. And like there's about a 37 to 40% accident rate within advanced manufacturing with neurotypical employees. There's a less than 7% accident rate with an autistic employee. Like there's all kinds of things. Yeah. Let that little Jedi mind stink get in there. So there's a higher rate of staying with a job with an autistic employee, not to mean that they'll put up with guff or anything like that, but they want to get into a job, they want to do it well, and they want to stay, right? Not fans of moving around a lot and doing whatever. They want a supportive work environment, and that doesn't mean anything other than be clear in your communication. If they ask to take their break outside, that's not a big accommodation. If you have to accommodate a smoking employee, that's about as difficult as it is to accommodate an autistic employee, right? So put together a grant proposal, took about a year. We received a $250,000 grant through an Ontario granting agency with the Work-Based Learning Consortium. And so for the last year, we have been connecting with employers and autistic individuals to explore how the autism community can fill the advanced manufacturing employment gap. By 2030, there will be a 60,000 person shortfall between jobs available in advanced manufacturing and talent available to fill them. And wow. Yeah, it's freaking mental, right? And we have all of these individuals who are very kinesthetic workers. Like they don't want to sit behind a desk. They don't want to be designing games and whatever. They want to be building and moving and doing all this stuff. Okay. So there's across Halton region, we've managed to get 25. We connected with 58, have 25 employers who are on board about learning more and next steps and whatever. Incredible. And I'd say easily 60% will end the conversation with the boss's son is autistic, my nephew's autistic, my niece is autistic, we have an autistic employee. I had one conversation where I explained certain things and the guy's like, oh, That might explain John.
Wow.
I don't know, John, but maybe it does. Yeah,
This
it's a
is
lot of.
so awesome. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
Alex
wow.
keeps telling me to stop having ideas. I don't know if that's a thing, but yeah.
Oh my God. No, these ideas are fantastic. And you're gonna do it. I mean, we're going right back to what I said at the beginning. You have focus, girl. Like, honestly.
I have drive. So if I had focus, I'd get more done in a day. Because I actually have profound ADD. But I have drive, and I don't believe in no, and I don't believe in not failing. Like we have this societal expectation that failure is bad. Failure is where the juicy bits happen. Failure is where you learn. I had a conversation with Thomas. Maybe we'll wrap up on that. And he was doing his course at Sheridan. He's just finished his 1-year welding and fabrication course at Mohawk, and he's done extremely well. So, woohoo! And we're talking about failure. And he says, "Yeah, I'm really struggling with this, and I'm afraid I might fail." And I pulled over and I said, "Okay, tell me about that. Tell me how that feels." "Well, I don't like it. I don't like how it feels to maybe fail, and da 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 da." I said, "You know what would be worse, buddy?" I said, "It would be worse if you went through your entire life and never felt that way."
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" I said, "There are people that go through their entire life in their little puddle, safe and sound, and that's how they live their life. And that's okay for them. There's nothing wrong with that. No judgment." I said, "But failure is how you move forward. Failure is how you learn what you want to do with your life and what you don't want to do and what gaps need to be filled." I said, "There's multiple things you can control about failure." I said, "First, you can fail, control how often you fail. Hopefully you fail a lot, because that means you're trying a lot, and that's awesome. But you also need to identify why you failed. So did you fail because you failed to be prepared? You didn't show up? Are there external or internal things that are causing the failure? Because if you fail for the same reason, and it's on my dime and it's in school, I'm going to kick your ass. But if you fail because you tried something and, something unexpected, whatever, I'm okay with that." I said, "Then you can control how you feel about failure." I said, "Because it's that fear of failure that will keep you from trying."
Right.
You need to fail, and fail often. You need to figure out why you failed and fix it if you can. And then you need to realize that how you feel about failure is going to dictate how you get through life. So nothing wrong with failing. Rock on failing.
Yeah.
Just don't fail for the same reason over and over again.
And did that resonate with him?
Yeah, he got it, because he thought everything I did was easy, right? He thought I didn't ever fail. He thought I never asked for help, all this other. And I just looked at him and I'm like, "Are you smoking the bong? Like, what did we miss here?" I'm like, "I fail all the time. I just don't give a shit." Yeah. I don't, that's a lie. And I'm using the S word, but I do care if I fail. I would just feel worse if I never tried.
For sure.
That whole Gretzky missed the shot that you don't take thing.
Yeah.
Sports people.
Exactly. There's so many sports analogies with owning your own business, but anyway.
I am not sports friendly, so please don't ask me that. Yeah. I'm the least sporty person ever.
So this is so awesome. So how can people get in touch with you, Elizabeth? How can they work with you? What's happening? How can they?
So if I haven't scared you off, you're welcome to. I am a lot, and I'll segue for a second, but I was on a team, and I don't have her here, and I'm very sad, but I do have Jason actually gave me a She-Hulk bobblehead Funko Pop, and I was like, so easy to make me happy. But one of our teammates said, "Your energy is a lot right now. Like, I need you to take it down." And I really appreciated that honesty, because I am aware that I can be a lot. Like, I get it. So SperoCareersCanada.ca is our website. You can find out about the Autism and Advanced Manufacturing Program. You can also visit AutismJobClub.ca, which combines Autism Job Club with Socially ASD. And that's where we're helping individuals find social opportunities, and we're building out the job opportunities. And I'm putting you on the spot for a second, and I know we're over an hour, but we can't forget to do this.
Oh boy, what's she doing to me? Oh God, you're so sweet.
Because I came prepared because I wasn't sure about my outfit and what would look nice. So I brought options, but there are stories, ladies. So I'm not a big jewelry person, believe it, until I met Monica. So damn you and your sparkly things. From an entrepreneurship perspective, this was the first piece I bought when I felt I'd made it, right? Like I got my first invoice for MCV Communications. A friend of mine once told me to celebrate, and I celebrated with this Wonder Woman. I think this is a 5-strand.
Yeah, and it's got all the Wonder Woman colors in it. Gold, blue.
Wonder Woman colors, yep. And so that was my first big splurge on jewelry, was with Monica. And then Monica and I did a podcast together, and I had been looking for something that would go with multiple outfits and was a little bit zhuzh. And I'd had another win in my business somewhere, and we did a podcast, and I said, Moni, is that for sale? And she literally went, yep, took it off, handed it to me. Boom, chakalaka, done. Oh. And then you had the series from inspired by different places. So there was Mardi Gras, and there was whatever. I was born in Saint Jerome, near Montreal, and this piece is her Montreal line. And so I have another piece that Monica hosted these amazing build your own jewelry nights. And the cool thing about it was it's an opportunity to take a piece that means something to you, but might not fit your aesthetic. It meant so much that night, Monica. It was an amazing night. And I didn't bring it, and I'm so sad, but my dad had given me a necklace many, many years before. And it was a very odd necklace that he'd picked up. I can't remember where he got it from, but it was made of malachite, and it was not my cup of tea. And I picked some beads, and Monica turned it into this beautiful piece that I'm so proud to wear. And every time I put on a piece from you, there's a feeling and a story that goes with it. Every time, every single piece I have has you in it, but it has the story that goes with it. And your sparkle has been in really important parts of my life.
Oh God.
Especially entrepreneurship and what have you. And like I put on my Wonder Woman necklace, and it's hefty, ladies. I got to tell you, you need some neck muscles to carry this puppy. But it's your grand entrance necklace. Yeah. No, honestly, no. It reminds me of Wonder Woman, and it reminds me of you, and it reminds me of all the other Wonder Woman entrepreneurs, and I feel taller. And when I put on my zhuzh bib thing, trust me, that gets attention. And every necklace that I wear, somebody will say to me, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, that's unique. And I love that. I love that a fellow woman entrepreneur who's also a kick-ass Wonder Woman made these pieces, and your creativity has leaked out to all of us, and we're able to carry a piece of you.
Thank you. Oh my God. Now I'm going to start crying, lady.
You can have a moment. It works. I always used to make fun of like Miss America. I'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? And then I'm like, oh my God, that works. How does that work? It's crazy. Anyway, have we covered your list, honey?
Oh yeah, this has been so great. And thank you for this piece at the end. That's so generous and kind of you. As
we know, I don't say anything I don't mean.
Oh, it's great.
By the way, this Hulk. Whoop,
yeah.
Was
the Hulk. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, we're like really over. This was done by an autistic artist. Robert, and his last name is escaping me, but I'll try and share it. And it says at the top, entrepreneurs, because it's focused on autistic entrepreneurs, and then Born to Stand Out. So he was part of one of our Autism Job Club conferences in our artists marketplace. And he's fantastic. And then I have another piece of art that I've just donated to Tech Place from Aiden Lee called Gold Linings. And yeah, we're trying to get it out there that autistic individuals are crazy creative.
Oh, this is so great. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to post this interview everywhere and hopefully have a whole bunch of, great companies
So
calling
you
me
edit
up.
it down.
Oh.
They're going to be like, an hour? What the shit were they talking about for an hour? Oh my God.
Oh God, no. This has been a delightful conversation. And thank you for sharing all the parts that made you do
My mommy will always make me. My dad's been gone 31 years. I still have moments where I'm like, but you know what?
Yeah.
Those are the bits that make life interesting.
Yeah.
That adversity and that perseverance and that whatever else leads us to change our corner of the world. Which is how you began this conversation.
Yeah. So we've come full circle, my love.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Do your wrap up. I'll keep talking.
Thank you for all your time. I'm going to put you back in the virtual green room with the
probably should
other rock stars, and I'll be right back.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth, you're awesome. Thank you for everybody who hopped on. Sue, I want to say hi back to you. Vanessa, oh my gosh, I wish I'd read this while Elizabeth was on. Elizabeth, you are my vibe. So are you, Monica. That is so nice of you to say. Thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and listen every week for interviews with amazing kick-ass businesswomen just like Elizabeth. Go check out our sponsors website, brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 22% off of your order. Her spring collection is up and it is magnificent. And as always, I encourage you to go to glamjewels.com to get yourself the perfect matching accessories. And also, as a note, we've got Mother's Day coming up, and we have a fabulous Glam Jewels subscription where every month for $35, you can get a piece of jewelry in the mail, which is a surprise. And you can actually go on the website and see what we've been sending out the last few months. But this would be a great Mother's Day gift. So make sure you check out our little subscription box. And that's it. That's all. We'll see you next week, and keep on showing the world your sparkle. Thanks, everyone.